Pop Cult Pod. This is a broadcast from an undisclosed location in Ireland known as the Pop Cult Compound, where they're crazy for film, television, video games, and much, much more. Speaking now will be the cult leader, Tompott, the host of the only podcast with an actual cult following. Pop Cult Pod.
My body is ready.
Hi.
Oi. That sounded weird. That sounded like, how was that intro to Electric Avenue? Oi! Now in the street there is violence. No. Oh, I miss Reggie Fils-Aimé after hearing that clip. Oh well. I hope you miss me as much as I miss Reggie, because this is the second part of my E3 breakdown, because the last one was just too long and I couldn't imagine anyone listening to me for that long. Nobody listens to me for that long. I don't even listen to myself for that long. I couldn't listen through the last episode. It was too long. No, it's not true. What I am going to do is play the second part. So when we last left it, we listened to Microsoft, Bethesda, and Devolver Digital. This time we were going to be looking at Ubisoft, which is we're going to launch straight into. Who else? Square Enix and the Nintendo Direct. And after that, we will do a few countdowns, my favorite games, some honourable mentions, the best conferences, the worst conference. So stick around. The episode after this one is going to be catching up on the news, all going well. And the one after that will be Comic-Con. So stick around if you want to hear about E3 at length. At far too much length. Well, not too much, you know. I've never heard any complaints about my length. Then we had Ubisoft E3 conference. Now, this was a long one. So, we began with an Assassin's Creed Symphony. I skipped, to be honest. I get it. E3 is long enough without having to listen to a symphony. It sounded good. I heard the first 30 seconds. I was like, okay, I get it. We had Carey Bland and Chris Waters came out to, like, the most boring names ever. I'm Miss Bland and I'm Mr. Waters. Very cringy, the audience in Ubisoft's conference as well. But anyway, actually the presenters weren't much better, to be honest. We had Watch Dogs Legion, which is probably their big one this year. They showed off London. It's more violent than it really is. You've gangs, guns, fictionalized version of London, quite obviously. We're following this kind of guy, kind of Jason Statham kind of guy. I think that's what they're going for. And we actually got some gameplay, which is rare around here. I mean, it's pre-recorded gameplay, but still. So we're looking for a recruit to help take out drones. So that's what we're doing here, is this bald guy. And he finds one, but he's attacked by the police. So we might see some like cool tech gadgets, but instead he just kind of shoots at the drones. I was waiting for him to like do a trick, like, oh yeah, you tech stuff, boy. But instead he just shot at the drone, like every other game. But all right. Then he turned invisible. This is really weird. Like, if you're watching this gameplay demo, right? He like turned invisible for like half a sec, and then he just got into the car and drove. It lasted for about 2 seconds. There's no point even showing off that power, because it didn't even translate. I didn't even have a chance to recognize what he was doing, because he was in the car and it didn't matter anymore. Anyway, our character that we were following, our Jason Statham guy, Ian, is dead. Characters can apparently be permanently killed in this game. So in other words, I'm guessing that character was not someone that pivotal. It was just like, hey, this is a guy you recruited and now he's dead because of you. And while you recruit, so you change over to a new character. This time it was an old woman who was a hacker. She kind of stole the show. A lot of people love this. So yeah, this old woman, I believe her name was Helen. She's a hacker, and it's an interesting idea. But you know, I wonder, like, because you can recruit people, you can play all these other characters. It's an interesting idea in theory, but I wonder if it'll feel like a real just hollow cosmetic change. Are you basically just changing your clothes at the end of the day, rather than anything meaningful? And does it really matter at the end of the day? Is it going to make that much of a difference? Is what I'm asking, to the core of the game. And I wonder if it's going to affect the story in a bit either. Like it's weird, because the complaint to the last few Watch Dogs games, and I didn't play the second one, I played the first one and remember next to nothing about it really, is how uninteresting the characters are. And will that not just accelerate the problem if you're constantly changing characters, and sometimes they're died, like sometimes they just die, and it's like, hey, that's that character, let's get a new one. I don't know, for a game that's main selling point is the hacking and tech side as well, it was like Didn't think it translated that very well. It was just a really boring third person shooter for most of it. Anytime there was like a situation, most of the time, it was like, oh well, you could hack this or you could do, and it was just like, no, just shoot it. I don't know. It looked a bit like The Division and like most every other Ubisoft shooter. The creative director also seemed to imply that Brexit is going to lead to a war like this. All right then, sure, whatever. So you build a team of heroes based on their skills for resistance. Anyone can be hired, which is what they're saying. I doubt that. You can make a team that looks however you want. Which they had another trailer to show that off. It was very glib for something so grim, which I guess is somewhat the Borderlands influence I was talking about. Also, thought the graphics were really ugly for this, like worse than the last few games. But anyway, the hiring component, as I said, I think is going to be very shallow. For example, you can hire lots of people, but if you hire someone awful or unskilled, will they immediately die and make the whole thing kind of pointless? Like, in other words, if you're like, oh, I can hire anyone I want, and you just hire this random person, and because they're so shit, they just die. So it doesn't really matter. You're just going to basically have to hire the same people the game wants you to. I don't know. These are just things I think about. They really pushed the old lady aspect as well. I was like, oh, you can have people like, you can have a whole crew that looks to it. You can have a whole crew of old ladies. And it's like, the novelty of that will probably wear off. Although, if there's an online to this, I would know he's going to be having all these 6-year-olds play as old women kick your ass online, huh? Going out March 6th next year. It looked fine. Like, the best thing I can say about this is that it made me kind of go like, oh, maybe I'll try Watch Dogs 2. Because I didn't hate the first Watch Dogs. It was just kind of like, okay. And this looked fine as well. I don't know. Could have done with some more technical aspects. I'm interested by the gameplay mechanic, but I'm not sure how pivotal it's going to be. And then we had actually, I was going to say the most baffling, and then I saw something that's coming next in the same conference. But one of the strangest choices at E3 in general is what they did next. So Rob McElhenney, who is Mac in It's Always Sunny, if you don't know who he is, he came out on stage along with in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia theme. I guess that was his entrance music. He's promoting a TV show from himself and a few of the people who worked on It's Always Sunny called Mythic Quest. Or Mythic Quest Raven's Banquet. I'm not entirely sure what was the name. I think the show was just called Mythic Quest. Raven's Banquet is the name of the game, maybe. This is an Apple TV Plus show. Actually, just an aside, I think recently Apple TV said basically, the shows don't have to be G-rated or whatever, which was the rumor at one stage. So they've partnered with Ubisoft. I'm assuming they're doing the animation for the game in the show or something. This is E3. They showed a trailer for it. That was it. It was just an ad for a TV show, and it didn't look great. Looked fine. This is E3. Why is this a thing? Is that really the best place to promote it? I don't know. Anyway. And then they started promoting a Rainbow Six Siege tournament with celebrities. So, I don't know. They really went off the path there. Then they announced that Finn, Jake, and Princess Bubblegum from Adventure Time were coming to Brawlhalla on a new team mode and a 3-4 stage. Cool. I suppose. All right. Okay, I'll take it back. This is probably one of the weirder moments. John Bernthal, the Punisher, Shane from The Walking Dead, the actor, you probably know him. He's going to be returning to the Tom Clancy Ghost Recon series. He was in the last one apparently, and he's going to be in this new one, Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Breakpoint. And then we got a trailer with no action, which was just CGI John Bernthal giving a speech to dogs. It didn't look great. It looked like it could have been any game. And then John came out on stage, and he brought a dog with him called Bam Bam for no real reason. I'm like, is it going to be like, the dog's in the game? No, I think it's just his dog. He brought the dog with him. The dog pretty much was well behaved, pretty much fell asleep straight away, which he had the right idea. It was just random. I don't know why the dog was there. I guess like John Bernthal was just like, I am walking the dog, honey. Oh shit, I gotta be at E3. I don't know what happened there. I don't know why the dog was there. John Bernthal's just a cool guy who can bring out a pit bull on stage or whatever it was and just be like, hey, chill up, bro. We're going to talk about this game for a few minutes. Let's go. Anyway, it's a shooter. Like every Ghost Recon. And then, that was kind of it, really. I don't know. They made a big deal of this, and it wasn't really a big deal at all, from what I could tell. Then they announced Ghost Recon Delta Company, and this is not a game. This is a community project that highlights cosplay and fan art, and we'll come back to that in a sec, right? So the beta for Breakpoint is September 5th. They want the online to stay active for years with free updates and content, and dun 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 dun. Yeah, that's right. Terminator tie-in crap. Way. Just in case you felt that it was diluted enough before, it seems like it's coming to this game too. Probably every other game. I'm sure Fortnite will announce one soon enough. So this fan art cosplay community thing, Ghost Recon Delta Company. I looked up the website for this, okay? And this is the first question. What is Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Delta Company? It's a community leaders program. Community leaders programs enable us to support and celebrate our community with all they have to share, their passion for our game. All right then, you got that? Fans is a one-word answer for it. What are the different detachments and how do you support them? Ghost Recon Delta Company is made up of 5 different detachments. Okay, so these are the 5 different detachments you can apply under. Special Activities Detachment, which is cosplayers, fan artists, fan fiction writers. We'll share guides and art assets with you to aid you with your kick-ass creations. Mission Intel Detachment. Streamers and videographers. We'll give you information on what's coming up in game to help you produce your community content. Company Comms Detachment. Conversation enthusiasts. You'll be empowered to drive riveting discussion thanks to Q&As direct from the studio. Conversation enthusiasts. Is that podcasters? Could I get in on this? Do we get paid? Team Operations Detachment. Fan site and fan page admins. We'll share information and assets with you to help you animate your community channels. So it sounds like you're going to be controlling the fan sites then. And fan page admins. Alright. Tactical Assault Detachment for our PvP experts. We'll organise community tournaments with and for you to show off your Ghost War skills. Okay. Is that not something you just do anyway? I don't get this at all. I guess they're going to be like, hey, and here, they're on about these cosplayers, we give you a guide. Like, I'm pretty, from what I can tell about this game, it's like dress up as a soldier. Like, it's just going to be like, hey, this is what John Bernthal wears when he's a soldier in their game. Streamers and videographers, we give you information on what's coming up in the game to help you produce your community. So, in other words, you promote for us. What? Like, I'll be honest, I copied and pasted from their website. I haven't really looked at it until now. This is, like, ridiculous. This just sounds like they can control the narrative of the game. They're trying to create an online community, very artificially, I would say. And that was Ghost Recon, dog and all. Yeah. Looks fine, looks like a Ghost Recon game. Take that for what it's worth. If you enjoyed the last one, I'm sure you enjoyed this one. Then they had an Ubisoft tactical RPG on mobile game, which Tom Clancy's Elite Squad. It features characters from all different franchises: Splinter Cell, Rainbow Six, Ghost Recon. Well, they really milked those Tom Clancy games, haven't they? The guy's dead and they're still cranking him out. Anyway, that's another mobile game, I suppose. Just Dance 2020. This was an embarrassing display. So it's celebrating 10 years, and all these people came dancing with fluorescent light tubes, pandas, and people with hair dye. All sort of people you'd probably avoid or cross the street to avoid. It's coming out in November. Oh man, that was a thing. For Honor, remember that game? Is getting a limited time content in the form of Shadows of the Hitokiri. I'm sure I pronounced that right. Cosmetic changes to characters and a new mode called Soul Rush. The trailer for this was actually quite cool. Maybe a bit of questionable voice acting in there. Yeah, you know, it was what it was. I think a lot of people got misled thinking it was like had kind of tie-in content to Sekiro Shadows Die Twice or whatever it was. Anyway, speaking of milking Tom Clancy dry, Rainbow Six Quarantine, which is another 3-player co-op. We had one of those earlier with Gears of War. It's coming in early 2020. It's not zombies. They made that very clear. It's a parasite. So I guess it's different, but it doesn't really look like it. We got a short CGI trailer and that was it. Is it just a parasite that infects people so they're walking around like zombies? Because if that's zombies. Alright. We got a trailer thanking the gamers because we're so great. for supporting The Division 2. This was a really baffling announcement. Nobody knew what was going on. They announced a few free-to-play dates. Straightforward enough. And then they announced The Division 2 Expeditions in episodes, and people didn't exactly know what it was, or was it DLC? Was it cost? No, they're free apparently. So that's fine. They're like missions. Anyway, that's what it was, but it was like people just didn't understand what it was, and they didn't really explain what it was very well. Then they mentioned the movie of The Division, which is coming to Netflix with Jessica Chastain and Jake Gyllenhaal. And then he left the stage, which was like, alright then. Bye, Division. That game never really lived up to its promise, did it? They announced Ubisoft, I'm going to say. PC subscription service Uplay Plus. The earlier access to games and premier editions will be included with this. 100 plus games to play, including DLC and classic games. $14.99 a month, so it's going to be the same price as the Game Pass or Xbox. It's coming in September. In 2020, it will also come to the Stadia, which is pretty good for the Stadia. It's going to have a big kind of library of games right off the bat if you have a Uplay account. Ubisoft get a bad rap, especially for the Uplay stuff. But there is quite a library of games there to play, I would say. All the Assassin's Creed games, possibly. Prince of Persia games, maybe. A lot of stuff in there that could definitely make it worthwhile. Roller Champions. This was a game that looked a lot like, was it Rollerball or Battle Ball in Alita? It looked a bit, I didn't really think much of this. It's weird because they showed it off, okay? And I'm like, where's the gameplay? This is just a trailer. And then he basically said something along the lines of, like, he called my bluff. He was like, oh, well, this is not now gameplay or whatever. So there was an E3 demo that was available, and they showed a bit of gameplay. I don't know if we can justify it at a full price. They didn't mention the price, obviously. It looked kind of fun, though. It looks like it's a fun little sports brawler, judging from the word of mouth. It didn't look bad, actually. This was the quickest the game has turned me around. I was kind of like, ugh. And then I was like, oh, you know what? Maybe not too bad. Maybe that could work. Maybe, like, in kind of Rocket League sense, it could be a fun little kind of messy kind of game. And then our CEO came out, in which people just orgasmed all over the place. People went mad for this guy as soon as he came out. I'm going to butcher his name. Yves Guillemot. That sounds suitably French or French-Canadian, right? That'll do. He came out, and then they show off their last game. This is... Right, in a conference full of bizarre moments and weird moments, I cannot believe this is how they finished their conference. There must be something I'm missing here, because I don't know why you put it at the end. Normally you go out with a bang, leave people go home happy. So they showed off this game called Gods and Monsters, which looked to me like that game Black and White, February 25th it's coming out, 2020, which is soon enough, relatively. And it was a very basic cartoon trailer, and it lasted for like 10 seconds. And it was a character with a sword attacking a gargoyle-looking thing. That was it. That's how you end it. And it didn't necessarily... The graphics weren't mind-blowing. The art style wasn't, like, gorgeous enough to be like, wow. First off, okay? This is coming in February. You have more than that to show us. It's not going to make next E3 if it comes out in February. Why the fuck did you end your conference with that? That's nothing. You got, like... I don't get it. I don't get it. You know what they should have done? Put together a quick trailer for Beyond Good and Evil 2. People would have been like, yes! Gods and Monsters was nothing. There must, like... I'm going to look this up later, because there must be something about that game that I'm missing. There must be some famous developer behind it. There must be something I don't know, because I can't rationalize that choice. So that was the end of that conference. Overall opinions on that, I thought it was absolutely crap. Half the stuff was boring add-ons to old games. Others were nothing worth getting excited for. Presenters were cringy, and none of it looked any bit interesting or original. And then it just ended. That was it. I can't think of another conference with no game that interested me. The closest thing that interested me was Watch Dogs 3. But even that wasn't a great showing. I think it was just, I liked the idea. And I'm interested to see if that mechanic actually works. But that was worst conference so far. Easily. Then we had Square Enix. Now, let me just preface this first, okay? I'm not a big JRPG guy. Not really into Final Fantasy. I played one of them, whichever one you play, like a game under the water with a ball. That's what I remember. So this probably means less to me than it would to most people. So, take my opinion with a little grain of salt here. Well, you should. I mean, you should anyway. It's different opinions for everything. Like someone might like Gods and Monsters, but yeah, Square Enix generally isn't for me. That's all I'll say. Okay, now that I've said my piece, let's go on to the Square Enix conference. Final Fantasy VII Remake. People went nuts for this. In fact, the audience at Square Enix one, I don't think they were plants, first of all. I'll say that. There was a few conferences where I'm like, there's a lot of plants here. I don't think there was plants for this. I think people just love Square Enix. This is what I'm saying, because there are a lot of people that love this. Maybe it's just not me. The Final Fantasy VII Remake, that's actually just what it's called. Which is like, okay. 2 Blu-ray discs for how big this is. It's massive. It looks like a complete overhaul. The graphics look amazing. Like, stunning. I will absolutely say that. It's certainly a Final Fantasy game. The still conversation between the two presenters as well was really awkward. Because one of them, of course, spoke Japanese, so he had a translator. And, yeah. It just meant something like, he'd be like, aren't you excited to show this game? Yes, I am very excited. Which just really kind of kills the conversation a little bit. They showed off some gameplay, which looked, again, like I'm not a big Final Fantasy fan. This was pretty impressive. This looked really good. They're spending a lot of time on this, clearly. Fans ate it up, as you would expect. The translator meant that this was a bit dragged out, of course. What was also funny was like, the translator clearly didn't have the same showmanship, because there was a few different times people came on stage. So like there was one time when like the delivery just isn't amazing. Like he said he delivers a line that you're expecting for him to pop for, but then the translator doesn't have that same kind of showy thing. So he'd be like, and this isn't me putting on Japanese. I'm just going to speak gibberish because rather than saying a foreign language. So he'll just be like, ha ba ba ba, and the translator will just be like, well, what do you think? Would you like to play the game now? And everyone's like, woo! It's like, the translator kind of delivered it flatly, and the guy presenting it had like a, yeah! I don't know. Which I just thought it was really kind of funny, because it meant that like, she totally didn't sell that line at all. But anyway, they showed a longer trailer for the game. Apparently they showed a shorter version of this already. Again, I'm not a Final Fantasy guy. This looked really impressive. The graphics look really good. People went crazy for some of the characters appearing, which I'm sort of fan favorites. Cloud and Sephiroth are those two of the people in Final Fantasy. That's my knowledge. I think one of them dies. That's a spoiler, I guess. But I can't even remember, so take that with a grain of salt. You're eating so much salt today that you're probably going to die. But hey, who cares? Nobody cares if you die. Oh, no, I love you, buddy. Whoever you may be. Alright. Like I said, it looks impressive. Comes out 3rd of March. Then they spent like... The trailer ended, and then for about 2 minutes they were promoting the different editions. It was like, oh, you can get this with a statue. You can get this with a bike. No, yeah, it went on for like 10 minutes, and of course, everything got whooped. Then a really weird announcement, I guess. So, Life is Strange 2. Now, these games are really popular, and Life is Strange 2 has been releasing since last year. If this was meant to like promote it or sell people into the idea, it did an awful job, I thought. Graphics looked bad. Song choice was bland and always laughable, and most of the trailer was focused on these obnoxious streamers reacting to it. Like they were having a Skype conversation, be like, "Oh my god, did you see it?" About playing the game. It was terrible. Why would you put out such a bad trailer for a game that's already out? I don't know. It really just reminded me I still have the original Life is Strange game to play somewhere. I think I have it downloaded somewhere. More Final Fantasy then. Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles Remastered. Get ready for remasters, folks, of Final Fantasy games, because there's a lot of them coming. It's going to be on PS4, Switch, and phones. That explains the shoddy graphics, because they didn't think they looked great. I don't understand what was going on. That'd be a recurring theme at the Square Enix conference. It sounded like a guy was talking about having asthma, but I think that's like a fancy term. That was maybe a bad guy. Asthma? I don't know, something like that. Then we had Octopath Traveler, another game that's already out. They didn't even announce anything new for it. It was just a trailer and said, hey, if this looks good, you can download it now. Which it did look pretty good. But it's weird to just be advertising it. You know? I don't know, that's a weird move, isn't it? Like, not announce anything new, just be like, hey, did you know we had this out? You should probably buy it. Buy. The Last Remnant remastered, another remaster. This was almost immediately available as soon as I think it actually was pretty much like the next day or a couple of days later. As soon as it was announced at the conference, this game is like a decade old. I don't think anyone really remembers it or cared for it, but they remastered it, and now you can buy it. Dragon Quest Builders 2. The artwork for this looked really nice. Trailer was different. So far from everything from Square Enix, kind of looks the same. You know, it's like big kind of anime faces, and everyone has pointy hair that's the same length. And it's, you know, everyone has a sword that's bigger than them, but it's apparently also really light. You know, and you know, K-pop is playing. Anyway, it looks like an RPG Minecraft basically, which isn't bad actually. It looked quite good. It's already out in Japan since December. Not worldwide yet, so I don't know if that's very exciting for people. I mean, I presume you could see like the old game played out in Japanese by now. Another Dragon Quest thing, which this title threw me. It took me so long to figure out the title of this game. I was looking at the logo for like 2 minutes. Okay, so it's Dragon Quest, and this is in Roman numerals. So Dragon Quest 11 S. Echoes of an Elusive Age Definitive Edition. Now, what made this so confusing is when you look at the logo, there's like an S just independent of nothing. Like it looks like Dragon Quest 11 Echoes of an Elusive Age Definitive Editions. There's just an S like floating miles away. Apparently the S goes after that. I don't know why. Dragon Quest 11S Echoes of an Elusive Age Definitive Edition. That, Jesus Christ. Just call it Dragon Quest 11 Definitive. Just call it that. Okay? The art style is good. Again, I'm hopelessly confused. It's a port to the Switch. It came out in 2017. It seems like Square Enix is just basically remaking and re-releasing and remastering everything. But hey, there you go. They announced a Square Enix Collective, which is a service for indie developers to show off on their platform. It's coming in 2020. They demonstrated a new racing game that's like a top-down. It looked kind of like Micro Machines. The camera work on this looked really cool. Kind of changes around a bit. Very stylized, kind of like if you're watching F1 on television. Problem, of course, being that presumably if it changes too much, the controls might change, which might be confusing. It's called Circuit Superstars. Yeah, it very much looked like a throwback to 90 machines. 90s machines. No, doesn't that sound like a name of like a robot war ripoff? 90s machines. Anyway, Micro Machines is what I was trying to say. Battalion 1944 was another game they showed off. This is like an online shooter. It looks like the classics in that genre, you know, Counter Strike, that kind of thing. Eastern Front, Battalion 1944 Eastern Front is now available on Steam, not Stream. I thought this might be free to play because it had that look about it. It's not, but it's quite cheap. It looked kind of, you know, it looked like that level of gameplay that it would just be cheap. And it, you know, it's fine. It's like a decent multiplayer shooter. It's the sort of thing where if enough people are playing it, it's got enough player base to be fun. But it's not a great game. It's just that everyone plays it, really, from what I can tell, anyway. Here's a totally pointless but cute ad. We had Square Enix music, which was really, really cute. It was like this girl in a cafe, and she was trying to listen to like Final Fantasy, and this whole orchestra was in the cafe, and like they're getting ready to like play the Final Fantasy cues. And I think she just put in headphones and walked off, and the orchestra like, what the fuck? I don't know, a stupid ad, but it was like, oh, it was nice. I remember that more than most of the gameplay I watched. It was basically just an ad saying like, hey, Final Fantasy soundtracks are now on all major music streaming platforms, which is the same place you can find the Pop Called Pod. Sorry, I'm in promo mode there. Kingdom Hearts 3 Remind. It's DLC for Kingdom Hearts 3. What's very weird about this is like Kingdom Hearts obviously sells itself on its like Disney connections. It didn't contain any Disney characters. They even got credited at the trailer. It was like, oh, Disney and Pixar. I didn't see any of them in the trailer. I don't know. Maybe there's a reason for that. I'm not sure. I haven't played the game. Is there? Did they basically kill off half the Disney characters? Or they never did that. Did they? I don't know. It was weird. But yeah, DLC for Kingdom Hearts 3. If you wanted that, a few people were a bit disappointed by that game, I believe. But hey, There you go. Here's another thing I just totally don't understand. Like there's like 6 more games where I'm just like, what? Huh? This is like your granddad, isn't it? Like, when you try to explain video games to your granddad, he's like, huh? Joystick. This is like, so this is I think it's an expansion pack for Final Fantasy 14 Online called Shadowbringers. I don't. They played a trailer for it. I didn't understand anything. Check it out if you like Final Fantasy 14 Online. Dying Light 2. We saw this at the Microsoft conference as well. It looked kind of like Mirror's Edge with zombies, which is basically what it is. It looked fine. It's another zombie game. I haven't played the first Dying Light. I guess the parkour elements make it a bit different. And then we had another game that got really, really confused me again. We had Romancing Saga 3 and Saga Scarlet Grace. I think those were the name of the 2 games. Yeah, it looks like the other games they've shown today. Yeah, I'm completely lost. This is no good, is it? I don't know why I bothered recapping the Square Enix conference because I don't know what I'm talking about. Another Final Fantasy game, Final Fantasy Brave Exvius. Wait, yeah, no, that's it. So there's an RPG spin-off of Final Fantasy Brave Exvius called War of the Visions that's coming out. And these are mobile games, by the way. 2 of those are mobile games. And hey, they actually look really good for mobile games. I'll say that. It's like about a war between 5 nations. It looks pretty good. Again, I don't know anything about Final Fantasy, really. But yeah, it's pretty good. This woke me up a bit, this next game. We had Outriders. This is like a cool CG trailer. Didn't really give much to go on. It's out next summer. It's like another 3-person co-op shooter in a sci-fi world. There must have been some game recently that was a 3-player co-op shooter that I'm not. Oh, yeah. Is it Apex Legends a 3 shooters, 3 people? I don't know if that's the reason. But it seems like people are really latched onto that 3rd game at E3 that has been announced as a 3rd-person or 3-person sci-fi shooter. This game, again, we didn't get footage, we got a trailer. It kind of reminded me a bit of that game Evolve that flopped horribly, which isn't a good thing. That's kind of what it seems like. It's in fact, before even they announced it was a 3-person co-op shooter, the trailer was like, oh yeah, okay, this is what it is. It's coming from people can fly, who made Bulletstorm and worked on the Gears of War games. So they made some good games. It had me interested. The only thing that really bugged me was how much they played the exact same clips over and over again. Which, okay, why? They showed the trailer, and then when they were talking, they were like, and then it was just the same clip over and over again. It's like, is that it? All right. Actually, that's probably a good time to talk about the Square Enix, right? They had these really, really, really weird transitions from trailer to trailer. It was like picture frames, and it would like zoom out for one picture and then go into the other. It was like really unnecessary. It's dragged it out even longer. It took a while as well to do it. It was like, oh, it's totally unnecessary, but so Japanese, I guess. Oninaki, another game where I wasn't not entirely sure what was going on, but I love the art style. And the character design was really cool. This is out August 22nd. If you're into RPGs, I think this might be one to check out. That was one that was really cool. That's what I will say. Like, look, I'm joking around. I don't know what most of these are. They probably don't appeal to me, but if I had to point out the ones that were really impressive so far, the Final Fantasy VII Remake looked fantastic. The Octopath Traveler game looked quite interesting as well. The Dragon Quest Builders 2 game, I'm not necessarily a Minecraft fan, but it looks like that would be a probably more complex and fun version of Minecraft, in my opinion. And Oninaki also quite impressive. So I'm not dismissing these games, I just don't know much about them really. And another remaster before we're nearly done. Final Fantasy VIII is being remastered. I think every Final Fantasy game is being remastered by now, isn't it? I assume what they showed though wasn't a remaster because it did not look very good. But I think it's not also the same as it's not a remake. It's a remaster, just updating textures and graphics. But it didn't look great, graphics wise, which was my main concern. But let that be what it be, I guess. What was that sentence? Let that, just so I can spare you rewinding. I said, "Let that be, let it be." It goes. That was like Rasta. I don't know what that was. Sorry. It was one more game at Square Enix one, and it was of course a big one that I actually understood. So the last game Square Enix one showed off, I guess, was probably the one that people are most expecting, which is the Avengers project, or just the Avengers now, I guess. That's what it was referred to as. So they used engine footage to recreate this. Iron Man, Thor, Black Widow, Cap, Hulk, Those are our characters. Poor Hawkeye got left out. The character designs is what everyone's talking about. They're not great. I don't think it's as bad as everyone is saying. I think what's weird is people are going mad about it, but looking at the Spider-Man PS4 game, I didn't think the character design there for Peter Parker was great either, or Mary Jane. Really? They're a little bland, admittedly. What's weird is, look, you obviously can't make them look like the actors, I guess, because there's no likeness rights and you probably lose a lot of money. It's probably too expensive. But you probably could have made them closer to the comic book characters, right? I don't know, some of these are just very generic. It feels like with minor tweaks, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference between some of these characters. But hey, I was a bit more worried about the voice acting, which it didn't sound that great at times. I think it might have just been the quality of the writing, which was worrying. But hey, it's not a lot to go on at least. So hopefully I'm wrong. It also just looks a bit dated. It doesn't really give us a lot to go on. All we really saw was like flying and running. But then actually, I was kind of writing my thoughts as it happened, right? So they kind of did a big left turn there because, like, when at the start of this, I was like, this looks like a game that they could have released when the first Avengers movie came out, and it just got delayed. But they kind of go for a big right turn, and there's a massive destruction incident, and the Avengers get blamed for it, and it's sort of like a Civil War kind of thing. And in my head, I'm like, hey, is that Nolan North doing Tony Stark? I thought it was, and then Cap is dead as well. Abomination's in it. Iron Man is in space. These are kind of a few quick glimpses we get. From a story perspective, it's pretty interesting. It's an interesting route to take. They could have gone for a very safe, like, hey, we're the Avengers, let's fight aliens. Done fine. So I'm glad they're going with something a bit more interesting because the storyline is probably what is going to differentiate this from another good game, presumably. Like when you look at the Spider-Man game, obviously the gameplay was good, but the story was fantastic. Gameplay being good is one thing, but you're not going to play the same thing over and over again. The story doesn't bring in, Not sure about some of the aspects of it. I worry about the gameplay. We didn't really get a good look. There was some leaked gameplay online. I don't know why they didn't show that off, because it would have put a lot of minds at these people. This did not get a good reaction overall. People were very disappointed. They wanted more. So they felt like they didn't get a lot, which is pretty reasonable. Because what we got from little glimpses were just like, hey, she's flying. Oh, he's running. Oh, it was kind of it. That's not much really to go on, Because, they would have really been able to get rid of some of that backlash. Anyway, it seems a bit like an alternate Avengers movie, like in the first one, as if they were to fail and come back 5 years later after being outlawed. Then we had a little feature with the voice cast. I was right. Nolan North is in the game. Troy Baker is voicing Bruce Banner. Laura Bailey is voicing Black Widow. Laura Bailey actually also voiced MJ in Insomniac's Spider-Man game. Those are just a few of the voice actors. They kind of, they basically just had this big puff piece of like, oh, this is why my character is so cool. And hey, this is why I like playing him. All right, yeah, we get it. Then we had another trailer. Really pointless trailer. So again, as I said, this takes place 5 years after the incident, known as A Day when the Avengers failed. It's like kind of like a mixture between Endgame and the first Avengers, and maybe a bit of Civil War thrown in. But like as I said, this trailer was really short, and it was like they had this the voice actors, and it was like, and now we've got some exclusive footage, and they basically just showed like a slightly extended thing from the trailer they just showed. That didn't give us much. Anyway. They said they want this game to have content releases throughout the years. There's going to be 4-player online, customizable heroes. Every superhero and region will arrive at no extra cost. No loot boxes or pay-to-win scenarios. And they showed off some pics that look quite good as well behind them. Again, I thought the graphics were a little bit lackluster. But there you go. It's going to be released on PS4, Xbox One, Stadia, and PC. There is going to be exclusive stuff for PlayStation, including an early beta. So, of course, a lot of people are suggesting that this could mean Spider-Man PS4 content, which I suppose we should talk about that. There was a quote from one of the people who worked on Spider-Man who said, like, this is kind of the first step in the Marvel gaming universe. And there's some people suggesting that one of the quotes from Spider-Man in the game hints at this game. I think that's a bit of a stretch, but who knows. They showed off another trailer as well. Hank Pym is there. It didn't really look like him. Certainly, if you're only familiar with Hank Pym from the movies, definitely didn't. they're definitely steering away from the movie universe, which is good, I would suggest. Taskmaster is also in the game, I should say. And it's coming out May 15th, so this was their only E3 to impress, and they didn't, really. Which is a shame. Anyway, here's our plot, by the way. I kind of took this actual, synopsis here. So the story begins at a day where the Avengers are unveiling a high-tech headquarters in San Francisco, including the reveal of their own helicarrier powered by a Terrigen crystal. Now, Terrigen crystal, when a Terrigen crystal is broken and releases mists, it creates Inhumans. So whether that'll be a factor, probably not. But I should also say that the line about them being in San Francisco, I think, is something that's alluded to in Spider-Man. Because he sees Avengers headquarters and he says something like, "Oh, they're too busy out in the West Coast West Coast surfing or whatever." All these things are going to be in because I probably won't have time to edit because I have a plane to catch in about 6 hours. So there it is. So Terrigen crystals. The celebration turns deadly when a catastrophic accident results in the most of the city being destroyed and the supposed death of Captain America. Yep, as soon as you say the supposed death, he's definitely alive. Thanks for ruining that there. Blamed for the tragedy, the Avengers disband. 5 years later, with all superheroes outlawed and the world in peril, Civil War sounds like that. The only hope is to reassemble Earth's mightiest heroes. Okay. There's a lot of complaints from fans online, especially about the lack of gameplay, as I said, and the look of the characters. If nothing else, I think they could have made the characters look like comic book ones, but that's not a big deal. I think I wasn't blown away by this presentation, but they said the right things. The free content been going on for years, and the story seems interesting. So as much as I wasn't blown away by the game, I think I'm more blown away by the possibilities that are there. But we will see if it lives up to those possibilities. Okay, overall Square Enix conference depends on how much you like RPGs and Final Fantasy. I'm not that big into either, so take it with a grain of salt. I thought there was way too many remasters and remakes, so pretty much every game was like a remake or a remaster or something, a CGI trailer for a game that was already out. There was some impressive stuff there. Again, I'm not a big Final Fantasy person. Final Fantasy VII Remaster looked very good. I think the Avengers game does have promise, but the pacing conference was off. Could have been a lot shorter, and there was just some strange additions to include in the show. There was some stuff where I'm like, why is this here? A game already out and you're just promoting it like this. This is pointless. Anyway. Finally, mercifully, the last and shortest conference was Nintendo Direct. The Nintendo Direct came in a balmy 40 minutes by comparison. Thank God. So they started it with revealing the Dragon Quest games. The hero from them. I don't think the hero actually has a name in the Dragon Quest games. The hero from, here we go, test my knowledge of Roman numerals. Dragon Quest 11, 3, 4, and 8 is coming to Smash Brothers, I think, or as a skin or something. That's pretty good, right? Naturally, they followed that up with a trailer for Dragon Quest 11S, which, as we mentioned earlier, is coming to Switch. They made a joke, same jokes everyone's making, about the head of Nintendo now being called Doug Bowser, with a CGI Bowser coming out wearing a tie, which, cute. That's fine. If some other conferences that, you'd be like, ugh, but Nintendo, it's like wholesome enough where you're like, oh. Luigi's Mansion 3 started off the show properly. I actually forgot there was a Luigi's Mansion 2. I'm betting a lot of people did. They showed off the new functions of Luigi's Poltergust Hoover. Basically a Hoover's up thing. And the greatest innovation in gaming, the highlight of E3, is Gooigi, motherfucker. A goo version of Luigi made from ectoplasm. That's pretty amazing. Gooigi. Oh, that's so good. Scare Scraper mode for co-op and online play where you fight ghosts and find Luigi and overcome obstacles. It looks like a lot of fun. I love the colour and lighting of the game as well, and the designs of the characters. I had no interest in this game or even awareness that it was coming out, or that there was one that came out before this. This looked pretty great, actually. Not enough to make me buy a Switch, but they look pretty great. Then we had this one was a little bit weird. We had a Dark Crystal Age of Resistance, which is Dark Crystal Age of Resistance Tactics. So, the Dark Crystal Age of Resistance is a Netflix series. This is like a game. I think it's like a mobile game, but it's coming to Switch. There wasn't a lot to go off of this. I just took away from the fact that I should probably watch the original Dark Crystal, and we had a puppet in the trailer. I was like, oh, God, I like puppets. No, it's a cheap, simple game. It seems more like a cash grab. It seems like the Switch has a lot of these mobile games. I mean, it's going to be on all platforms, this game, but like, I don't know. Link's Awakening. We spoke about this a couple months ago, I think, at another Nintendo Direct. I love the look of the game here. It's kind of plasticine, kind of cutie, colourful Zelda. It's fun, it's cute. It's coming out September 20th. Not a lot more to say. Trials of Mana, which is another RPG, looked fine, very colourful. The original 3 games are now available as well as the collection of Mana on the Nintendo eShop. You know, that's what I said. If you've heard of those games, you know, you can get them all now on Switch. If you haven't heard of those games, they look pretty good. So check it out if you're an RPG fan. That is. We got an ad for Witcher 3 Complete Edition. Like people, I don't know. You know, sometimes there's titles where it feels like they just put them out there because people complain about the lack of hardcore titles on Switch. Well, The Witcher will definitely put those people to rest, I would imagine. It's kind of funny, like all these games Nintendo was getting so much later, and their main selling point right now is like you can play it on the go. It's just really funny. Like The Witcher is how many years old? 2-3 years old? And the trailer is like Witcher 3 on the go. Like it's kind of funny. Like any game that comes out is like, yeah, well, you probably played it, but now you can play it like at an airport or on a rooftop party with friends. Like that's also always the scenarios, aren't they? Fire Emblem, 3 Houses. This is like an anime cel shaded game. Again, style of this looked absolutely gorgeous. I'm a sucker for that art style, even if I don't love the game. It had a weird blend where it's like it's modern, but then you have sword and shields, which I didn't really get. They're on about high schools and stuff, and then all of a sudden I was like, hey! The voice acting here was pretty good though, for sure. Better than my exclamation there. Hey! It's coming out July 26th. I really dig the look of that game, even if I don't think I'd play it. They kind of sell the portability console again. He tries to set up the trailer, but the translator finishes before he does, leaving an awkward gap. It was kind of weird, like because the translators talk over them in this. It's not like waiting for them to finish. It's like dubbed. So he was like setting up trailer, and the translator was just finished, like way before the guy that was translating it, which meant that the 2 presenters were just standing there in silence for a sec while the translator finished up his job. Anyway, the trailer showed like these dumb kids going to a spooky house to play Resident Evil on Switch, which is like, what the fuck? There's birds outside my window shouting. Oh man. Nintendo don't like me talking shit about the portability of their console. Yeah, it's all these kids going to a spooky house to play Resident Evil on Switch. Why? Why is this like really stupid thing to put your press conference? A really dumb idea in general, really. Like, oh, we're gonna play this like spooky house, and it was a really nice looking house. You could just tell it was just dark. That was it. And it ended by saying that Resident Evil 5 and 6 are coming to Switch. So hey, that's there you go. If you want to play the Resident Evil games no one likes on Switch, anywhere you want, now you can. Isn't that great? Then we had, oh man, this is appropriate given the day. This is a trailer, and this is how it started. Okay, and I'll tell you the game in a minute. These games actually, I'll tell you the game now. Fuck it, because I'm going to say these games actually always interest me. I think they're kind of cool, mainly because people were saying that they were quite similar to Scott Pilgrim. But I think the similarities might end there at a flaming sword. That is No More Heroes 3. This is how the trailer opened, right? Our hero, I can't remember his name. He's got a really weird name. It's like Travis something. Let's see if I can find his name. Because it's really weird, I'm sure. Travis Touchdown. There we go. It's such like a Japanese idea of an American person, isn't it? Travis Touchdown goes to high school. And never before has it been better conveyed than the opening line, which is so awful, it's actually amazing. I wrote down worst opening line ever, and now I'm thinking it might be the best. And it's very appropriate, because it's the 4th of July today. Our hero comes on screen, Travis Touchdown, the man himself, says, "Is today the 4th of July, or is the Empire striking back, or what? Hey, America!" Oh, that's great. But yeah, again, it was a little short CGI trailer, we didn't get much to go on. I wanted to check out these games. If you like these games before, you'd probably like this one. So there you go. Speaking of a game that you probably used to like and mightn't like after you see this, Contra Rogue Core. Oh man, it does what every one of these kind of games does now. It's quirky, funny, over the top. Like, oh, look how wacky we are. That there's a panda and it's Technicolor sci-fi. Ooh. September 24th is coming out. It's like it's a Contra game, but it's going a very different way. Over the top zaniness, different art style. People are not happy with that one. People are like, "What have you done to Contra?" Which, yeah, fair enough. Weird. It's weird that you would take such a game that was so pivotal to the industry at one point, and then you're just like, "Hey, let's make it like every other game." But anyway, then we had Daemon Ex Machina, which is a mecha game, I guess. Visually impressive. The snippets of gameplay looked really boring, though, in my opinion, which is a shame. It was like a mecha game, but it just looked like he was kind of flying in circles. It wasn't really that interesting looking. It's coming out September 13th. And speaking of boring games, this is the most boring game I've ever seen, right? We had Panzer Dragoon. It's a rail shooter. And they've done this before. This is a long running series. I think it was on the Dreamcast maybe at one point as well. It just looked so boring. It's a rail shooter. And I think they were trying to sell it on like the beauty of this world, but it didn't look that impressive at all. So it was just boring. Pokemon Sword and Shield. They talked about that. Hey, you can play it now at our conference, whatever. There's a Pokeball Plus accessory, which is out now. I never heard of. I guess you can carry Pokemon in it from certain games. It's a lot of money. And for what I could tell, basically, it's like if you shake it, it'll make a noise of the Pokemon, which is like, oh, wow. Technology is amazing, isn't it? And then he was very vague about what you do because he was on with Pokemon Sword and Shield. And he was like, hey, and you can carry it with you. And if you do, something good might happen. That's so vague. That could mean like, hey, you're going to get exclusive content of the game. Or it could mean like, hey, maybe you'll find some money on the floor. You never know. Like, what? I don't know. I've never seen one of these things. I don't think they're necessary. But anyway, Pokeball Plus. But then again, if this was like 15 years ago, that'd be my jam, I'd be carrying that shit around everywhere. Astral Chain was another one. I thought this looked familiar, and I kind of remembered after that they showed it off, I think, last year as well. It looked pretty good, actually. It looks colourful enough to be different. I'm actually pretty interested in this one. It's not that bad. And I should not like it. But you need to watch the trailer for Astral Chain that they put up at E3, because the voice actors are so cheesy, they're amazing. And the other thing is, like, lines you get in anime and like over the top games where they like say one line like, it's the end of the world as we know it, or something like that, or yeah, watch out, man. Like, there's so many of them. Like, normally they put one or two in a trailer. They're all in this, and they're all shouting over each other at times. It's just absolute madness. Yeah, that was pretty good. Astral Chain, I would say that would be one to check out. Empire of Sin. This is John Romero, of course, created Doom, who I saw in person once. He has lovely hair. John Romero has his name all over this trailer. It's like Romero Games, Romero Wiki. It's a CG trailer that seems totally deceptive to what the actual game is. You kind of see like gunshots and liquor and booze and fucking poker chips all over the place. And then it just looks like it's a tactical RPG with the mob. Which, like, wasn't that like already a thing with the Godfather game, like on PSP like 20 years ago? Whatever, 10 years ago. That doesn't look very original. Now, look, apparently there's more to it from a gameplay perspective, but this gave us nothing. And that's the problem with CG trailers. Yeah, you either have something there or you don't. This didn't seem to have much based on the trailer. Hopefully there's more to it, because hopefully John Romero has a good game. It's like him and his wife Brenda, I think, are working on. Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, The Black Order. I love the variety of characters in this. It's all over the map. I played the first Marvel Ultimate Alliance. It's actually pretty good. I don't think it's probably aged very well, but it looks very good. The voice acting seems fairly decent. Looks like a total clusterfuck though when there's too much on the screen. At one stage I was just like, oh, what's going on? I think there's even slowdown in the trailer. It's coming out July 19th. They also announced an expansion pass featuring Marvel Knights, X-Men and Fantastic Four. I guess that just means more X-Men aside from Wolverine. Marvel Knights, probably Daredevil, maybe Blade, I don't know. That expansion pack is coming fall. I'm still surprised this is just on the Switch. It just feels like it'd probably do better from a multi-platform release, but Maybe Nintendo are paying good money for it. Cadence of Hyrule. This is a spin-off to the Crypt of the Necrodancer, which is like a dungeon crawler that you play to a beat. It was weird because I was like, oh, this looks like Zelda. And then sure enough, it was a Zelda-centric spin-off. Yeah, no, that could actually be fun. It's an interesting sort of expansion to the idea of a dungeon crawler, but I probably never play it realistically. Coming out June 13th. Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games. This is out in November. Pretty early. The Olympics aren't until next year, right? Next summer. Anyway, it has online modes, so they made a big deal of that. Those games they're kind of fun party games. And, it's you know what you're getting into. And it seems like they're pretty fun. So anyway. Animal Crossing New Horizons. I've never played any of these games. People eat them up, though. It looks exactly like an Animal Crossing game. There was kind of camping and that kind of thing aspect to it, so that might be something that is new to the series or people love. I don't know. I've never played any of these games. I just know people like them. The graphics are nice too. It's very cute, wholesome. Kawaii, I think they say. It's a 2019 release, but it's now been delayed till March 20th, 2020, and they apologized and said, hey, it's just to get the game right, but yeah, sure. Right. Then we got a whole list of games that are coming or just arrived on Switch. Let me try and name as many as I can. Spyro Reignited, Hollow Knight Silksong, Ni no Kuni Wrath of the White Witch, Minecraft Dungeons, Elder Scroll Blades, My Friend Pedro, Doom Eternal, The Sinking City, Wolfenstein Youngblood, Dead by Daylight, Alien Isolation, Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles Remastered, Dragon Quest Builders 2, Stranger Things 3 The Game, Just Dance 22, Catan, New Super Lucky's Tale, Dauntless, Super Mario Maker 2. That is a weird list of games because some of them you're like, whoa, that's a pretty good get. And they're just buried in the middle of this trailer where there's also lots of crap. But anyway, then they came back to Super Smash and revealed Banjo-Kazooie. Everyone's wanted a new Banjo game. I guess this is going to have to do for now. There's a pretty good fake out in the trailer actually where at first you're like, oh, is that Banjo-Kazooie? You see a silhouette. And it's actually the Duck Hunt dog with a duck messing around. It's pretty funny. Yeah, he'll be a good addition to that. Or they will be, I guess. Finally from Nintendo, wasn't a lot to latch onto here, but they announced that a sequel to Breath of the Wild is in development. Nice little trailer. No details really. Nothing there except, hey, we're working on the next sequel. Which is, I don't know, that's just kind of bait, isn't it? Like, presumably this is a long time away. It felt like they were just like, hey, we want something big. Breath of the Wild, boom. That's probably years away. And they didn't show us anything to indicate that it wouldn't be years away. I don't know. Good. I mean, Breath of the Wild was apparently fantastic. I haven't played it. People loved it. And the sequel, of course, a great game is always welcome, but it feels like they just were like, hey, just throw this out there. People would eat it up. Good way to end the conference. We'd probably win E3 because there's not going to be any surprises. There we go. That's pretty much what it was, seemingly. Hey, that was a Nintendo conference. Overall, though, I think this conference was absolutely blessed because of how short it was. I don't know if I can say it was like anything that knocked my socks off, but it was breezy and quick. There were some cool games. It's amazing by comparison how not sluggish it was. Nothing else. It was fine. It was protected by how short it was. So there you go. And that was E3 2019. Jesus. I think this is officially the longest episode to date. Oh, God. Could you imagine if Sony was here as well? It would have been even longer. Oh, my God. Yeah, as you can guess, and one of the reasons, as I mentioned before, is the episode being taken a while to come out was that this E3 was one of the worst ones in a while. I think it was a combination of things that made it suck. First of all, you had Sony missing. They normally put on quite good conference. There's also the fact that we're at the end of a console generation and the next one hasn't really started, so we're kind of in this weird in-between phase. Yeah, it's sort of a shame. I think it was lackluster offerings from most of the conferences this year in general, to be honest. There wasn't really any surprises. I mean, I saw people said the biggest surprise was that they announced Zelda. But even as I said, that was very much a nothing statement because we got nothing new on it. It was just, hey, we're working on it. That could take years. Yeah, it wasn't not a good E3 at all, really. I think I must be cursed. I started a podcast and I started a YouTube channel. And some of the most bland crap summer movies come out. One. Some people aren't attending Comic-Con. Sony put out of E3 and E3 is crap. I should have started a podcast last year. Anyway, Just a few distinctions. Best conference. I was going to say. I would say Devolver Digital for most entertaining, but it was a total farce, so I won't say them. I think it's pretty close between Microsoft and Nintendo. Microsoft had some great showings, but there was also more misfires. Nintendo had a few interesting aspects, but it was also just short, concise. So I'll give it to Nintendo for that alone. You know, Microsoft probably had more stuff to it. It's a pretty good conference from Microsoft. They've had much worse years. Worst conference. Like I would say Square Enix, but that's because they have no interest in their stuff. Square Enix was a great conference if you're into that genre games and that kind of thing. So I can't really. It wouldn't be fair to say that I'm not their demographic. That would be a bit harsh. Probably Ubisoft. Ubisoft's conference was awful. It really was not interesting in the slightest. Let's talk about some of the damn squibs. These are games that could have delivered and just were nothing or just misfires when they announced them. Two of Microsoft's big titles, Halo Infinite and Gears of War 5. Gears of War just didn't show much, considering it's a game that comes out quite soon. That's ridiculous. And what they did show to CJ Trader was stupid. Didn't show any gameplay. Nonsense. I mean, why you wouldn't do that for such a big title and a title that's out soon? I have no idea. I don't know what the logic there was. Halo Infinite, bit of an underwhelming tech demo. Just looked like the other Halos. And this is meant to be showing off your new console. Not a great showing for Master Chief either. I'm going to say Contra Rogue Core, even though it's a smaller game. Just because it seems like they took the Contra name and put it on some bland shooter, and that's definitely pissed off some of the fans. Not that I can say I was a big Contra fan. You know, I played it a little bit, but that's not much, saying much really. It's not my generation, but other things, any game that had a Technicolor Wasteland aesthetic, I keep bringing up. It's maybe leave Borderlands out of that because I guess they kind of, well, I wouldn't say, I don't know if they started it, but they've been doing it for a long time. But just this, oh, it's the end of the world, let's all be wacky, and then all these Technicolor stuff. It's just, why is every game that now? Do something new. I'd also probably say zombie games. Just because, or sorry, for in the case of what was it, Outriders, Parasite, like, oh no, that was a Rainbow Six game, wasn't it? Ubisoft. See what I mean? This is what I'm talking about. They all blend into one. Zombie games are they're over. Okay. The Division 2, I'm also going to give an L to, because, like, whatever with this game. Okay, some people like it. You know, I tried the first Division, didn't get into it. This announcement was just awful. No one knew what was going on. And who cares, really, I suppose. Notable people missing in action. Games that could have been there, should have been there. Question mark why they're not there. And new Elder Scrolls. Now, again, some of these people have said, hey, we're not going to be at the show, but it's a question of why they weren't there. The new Elder Scrolls, that's going to debut a new next generation, so I guess they did that, but it surely would have helped Bethesda's conference because Bethesda's conference wasn't great. Quite a few games on the Switch. You know, a lot of the Nintendo conference was like DLC and that kind of stuff, where no mention of Metroid 4, which is being reworked. Would have been a real show of confidence if they showed off some of that. A new Pikmin. I think we heard about that. We still haven't heard about it. Bayonetta 3. Another game that we heard about, I think maybe 2 years ago now. Nothing more on that. Few other ones. One from Microsoft. Fable 4, I think it is. Fable wasn't there. Maybe they're holding that for a new console as well, possibly. I mean, Sony were missing in general, but just to remind ourselves of some of the games that we're not going to see. The Last of Us 2, Ghost of Tsushima, Death Stranding, all some big games that we're never going to be at the conference because, of course, Sony weren't at the conference. I don't know, it's a shame because they really were missed, and I think even Microsoft kind of came out and said, like, you know, it's a shame they're not here. It's nice to have them here. Works great when they kind of play off each other, I think. And yeah, like that's the thing when you look at this, like, I mean, Nintendo did their Direct, right? It wasn't an actual conference properly. It was just a video. The only main console was Microsoft, which is kind of sad. I don't know if this is the death of E3. Not the death, obviously, but a repurposing. I don't know, possibly. And the big most notable, in my opinion, and I really, you know, I mentioned it already, Beyond Good and Evil 2. That seems like one they're just going to whip out every few years and be like, "That's right, it's in the works," for a pleasant pop and people to love it, and then never mention again. Although at the same time, that's probably going to work for next gen as well. Yeah, there was missing in action in general. I guess surprises. There was no surprises at all at this conference. This E3 in general, just nothing shocking. Real letdown. Anyway, I'm going to talk about the best games, and these were the 10 I took away. Now, some of these, I think, if I thought about them for too long, I wouldn't put them up, but I had to come up with a top 10. So, best games, I'll start at number 10, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Looks like a good Star Wars game. Looks like something a bit different. It's not the most original game in general, but having the Star Wars license to it could work. It has some decent talent attached to it. You know, I'm going to give this a shot. Hopefully it turns out good. Number 9, Psychonauts 2. This is mainly based on my love for the first Psychonauts. This second one looks like the first one, with better graphics. But, Tim Schafer and Double Fine, if nothing else, they're going to give us a unique experience, which is missing from E3 and missing from a lot of games in general. So, hopefully, it delivers. Number 8, The Outer Worlds. This is one. This is the one I said it's a bit like Fallout. It looks interesting. It's different. It's not the sort of thing I would usually play. And it's not gone for this kind of standard post-apocalyptic look. And by standard I mean the kind of mad, mental, over-the-top technical stuff. Looks like it has a bit more to it. I'm hoping. I saw a little bit of gameplay as well that made me go like, pricked up my ears a bit. So I'll put that there, but I could probably put it lower. In a more competitive year, I probably wouldn't have made my list, to be honest. Number 7, Watch Dogs 3. I tore into this one a little bit. But then again, fair play to Watch Dogs 3. It was probably the game that put itself out there the most. Got a lot of footage of it. I enjoyed the first Watch Dogs enough. Like, I enjoyed it when I was playing it. I can't really remember it that well. That's the sort of game we're talking about. But I like the idea of it. I hope it works. And that new mechanic of being able to be whoever, that interests me. I'd like to see how it works. I hope, it gets better. It's kind of like, Assassin's Creed, when the first entry didn't really land. And then later entries, it kind of delivered on that promise. Hoping that the Watch Dogs world comes around, because something unique at least. But hopefully, I hope it, because the demos didn't really help lean into the technical aspect of it. It was mostly just shooty. So I hope that's gone. Number 6, Luigi's Mansion 3. I don't own a Switch, but this looks like a really fun game. Some cool creative aspects to it. I like the design of it, the color of it. Gorgeous. I mean, I never thought this would be on my list, but I was somehow really impressed with it. I don't know why, but yeah, it's up there. Number 6. Number 5, Fall Guys Ultimate Knockout. This was from the Devolver Digital Conference. The only game actually from the Devolver Digital Conference that made my list. As scattered as that conference was, it was a lot of fun, but this game also looks like a lot of fun. I love a good party game, and we have all these massive multiplayer games now, the 100-player battle royales and big shooter things, and I think having in theory at least, having a 100-person party game online seems a lot of fun. And I like Takeshi Castle. I think this is different enough to have a bit of fun with. I saw the gameplay. It looked really fun. I know I've said fun like a million times, but God forbid that we have a fun party game for once. I don't know. I'm impressed by it. Again, it's probably on a more competitive year. Probably wouldn't make my list, but I enjoyed it. Number 4, a game I hadn't even heard of, was 12 Minutes. This is the game where you're stuck in a time loop in kind of a small house, and it's like top down. This was such a surprise because it came out of nowhere and it looked really interesting, and a lot of people are talking about it. I don't know how the gameplay will work, but it's an interesting enough concept that I want to give it a go. 12 Minutes, definitely one that, probably the biggest one I've had to surprise me, really. It came out of nowhere. I was really impressed with it. It got me invested. I actually sat up on my seat for a minute. And number 3, coming into our top 3 here, Avengers Project, or just the Avengers as it's called now. I don't want to call it the Avengers because that's just what all now it's like, oh, the Avengers. Oh, do you mean like the Avengers team, or do you mean the movie The Avengers, or like the comics, or do you mean the TV series, or do you mean the Avengers the game? Yeah. Here's the thing about it. It wasn't a great reveal. Could have done with some gameplay. Designs could have been, improved upon. I'm hoping that they're going to take the feedback they got from the showing and work to improve it because it comes out in May. I think this is one that is there because of the possibilities of it. I think there's a lot of potential in this game. I think they have a lot of great ideas. I just hope they refine them and present them better next time. Whenever they manage to show it. So hopefully, fingers crossed for the Avengers. Number 2, I'm sure this is number 1 on most lists of the best games of E3. Not on my list though. And that is Cyberpunk 2077. This is another game that I want the best for it because I think it looks really cool. I think there's a lot of great ideas in there. I love Keanu Reeves. But yeah, like they could have shown it off better. I wish we'd seen some gameplay. This is a game that really in the long term isn't that far away. But I don't know what it is about these E3 things this year. They just for some reason decided not to show it off as much. And this is one that I think everyone's excited for, and that's getting so hyped. I just hope it can deliver. And it would have been nice to see some gameplay, of course. Until CD Projekt Red already, I guess we won't get to see it though. But yeah, so much like the trailer for it was fantastic. It's probably the one most people are hyped for. As I said, I've seen a few lists of best of E3. It's top of the list for a lot of people, and understandably so. There's a lot of hype behind this game. Hopefully, it delivers. Okay, and number 1. Before I get to number 1 though, let's do a few honourable mentions. I don't want to be too down on E3 this year because there was some good stuff. It wasn't a great E3 overall, but there was some decent looking games. If I could just shout out a few that didn't make my top 10, but I thought were interesting. Blair Witch, I thought that was quite a good use of that IP. I think it could be a very, successful and a very interesting horror video game. What else? Dragon Ball Z, Kakarot. Poor choice of words. Not my thing, as I said, but I was maybe like I've highlighted a lot of games that I thought looked gorgeous. That's the one probably not above all else, but that was one that really stuck with me. The visuals just totally captured that anime. Totally worth checking out. And I played some of the Dragon Ball Z games, the fighting ones, and they're a lot of fun. And this apparently seems to be the kind of definitive game in that series. Way to the Woods, I don't know anything about this except you play as a deer, but it looked quite nice. I kind of got a Journey, Okami vibe off it, which I'd be interested to see. What else? Elden Ring, great trailer, but again, you can't really judge much off just the trailer, which is a shame. Wolfenstein, Youngblood especially, not the VR version, Wolfenstein Youngblood. That looked like, I don't know, like because there's so many shooter games out there, and it's like, people are like, oh, well, that's just another shooter. But that really impressed me. I thought it looked like it had enough difference in it, and it has at least creative use of weapons and, having an online multiplayer to it, and it's optional, of course. It looked very arcadey, very fun. More so than the other ones, I will say. Was there anything else? My friend Pedro, which is out already. I thought that looked quite good. I mean, I guess you already know the answer if it's good or not if you want to play it. Anything else? Ubisoft. I'm looking through Ubisoft's conference here now. Not there wasn't much there. Roller Champions, looked fine. Again, I think it'd be fun, kind of thing to play with friends. I don't think it's going to be an amazing game. Final Fantasy VII Remake, not my thing. Looked gorgeous though. Just the graphics were outstanding. And maybe I don't know. I don't know where to start with Final Fantasy. But that might be if I can start with that, I might, because that really, really impressed me, I will say. Octopath Traveler, another game that looked very good, even if it wasn't my sort of thing. Outriders was different enough, but I think that might have just. I think I preferred Outriders just because it was something different in the midst of all the JRPGs and the like. So I would say that's not fair. Link's Awakening, again, nothing you wouldn't expect, but it looked great, a lot of fun. Yeah, Astral Chain is another one I thought was very good. I shouldn't have enjoyed it. It was sci-fi, it looked great. And it had a sense of cheesiness. Maybe that was just the voice actors. I don't know, but it looked like a lot of fun. So those are the honourable mentions. Number 1, I'm going to have to give it to Doom Eternal. That last Doom game, I think people went in with certain expectations and were absolutely blown away. And this one looks like it's up the game in every possible way. Crazier weapons, better combat, better movement. It looked more like over-the-toppy sci-fi, which was some of the most fun we had in the last game. It was kind of weird fantasy stuff. This just looks like so much fun. And the last game was so good. And the fact that it seems, at least from the outset, that they've improved on that. I mean, because it's an easy win. Because Doom is one of the games that stuck with me. In fact, watching Doom Eternal, I was just like, God, I want to play Doom again. And there's not many games I could say that about. So, yeah, as I said, not the best E3. There's certainly been better ones, but at the end of the day, there's also been worse ones. I remember us sitting through worse ones. It was tough to get through. If you did get through this, thank you very much. I'm after seeing how long this episode's run for. I'm probably going to have to split this in two. In fact, I will split it in two. So if you're listening to this, I guess you're listening to part two. And yeah, that was E3 2019. That was rough, wasn't it? Okay. Hope you enjoyed this. I hope you're still alive. I hope you're not as sapped of energy as I am from it. Here's what we will do. If you enjoyed this, please give us a positive review on iTunes. Or subscribe, whatever your podcasting app is. You can find us pretty much anywhere. SoundCloud, iTunes, Spotify, you name it, Buster. And, of course, I hope you come back if you enjoyed this. Check out the YouTube channel. I don't, mention the YouTube stuff specifically, but a lot of reviews have gone straight up there. I've seen a lot of movies since I last recorded. Reviews have gone up there. I started a new series. I did a discussion of the Spider-Man credit scenes. So you can check those out there. And most importantly, though, I hope you come back because I cannot spell cult without you.
Consider it. Man, look. I'll go short man of them up over Norway.